It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Welcome to a Monday. Sunday morning news shows covering a lot about the president's executive order this week, and it seems that on all the media, nobody really thinks it's going to do anything.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the status quo. Here's Republican Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana on Fox News.
I think what happened when he was elected, his staff sat him down and said, Joe, you can either go down in history as President Obama's sidekick, or you can be Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And President Biden's attitude is, well, I have principles, and if you don't like them, I have others. And so
He's always been that way.
I think I'll take door number 2. And so he runs as this moderate, but instead we get the first cousin of Bernie Sanders. And they think the American people are stupid. The American people, they may be poorer under President Biden, but they're not stupid. They get this. They see this. They look at the border. The crisis at the border is man-made.
Why did you think
and
they
that
did
man's name is Joe Biden.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Using our talking points, man-made, and that man is Joe Biden, and he believes the American public, or he's saying the American public isn't stupid.
Yeah.
All the things that we have brought up, because we've said this for the longest time, the Democrats believe the American public is stupid. The people that vote for them are idiots, and they can lie to them or tell them anything, and they'll believe them. And there are some that will. But the other thing is, as we have said to Republicans, keep pounding, and they're starting to do this almost every time I hear them talk about the border, is that this is man-made, that this is from Biden.
Right.
And they should do that on inflation. They should do that on defund the police. They should do that on Israel.
Yep. On every issue, because it's true.
Now let's go to an interesting interview done over the weekend. I believe this was, and this is from Forbes, and it's Congressman Byron and Wesley Hunt of Texas.
So we spent a bit of time talking about the former president. I want to talk about the current president, Joe Biden. So why do you think minority voters...
Where's my drink, man?
We'll get you turned good after this.
I know we don't need it right. We don't need it right now. You're right.
Yeah, no. So why?
It's sober.
Why do you guys think that minority voters, black male voters, have shifted away from President Biden?
Because he's trash. This man is terrible. Listen, look. Hold on.
That New York came out. That New York came out. The New York.
This man's horrible. Let me put it to you this way. I'm a native New Yorker. God bless the New York Jets.
It came out.
But the New York Jets have drafted quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, and after 3 games, the Jets fans look at themselves and they say, "Oh my gosh, we drafted a guy. He can't play." America has drafted Joe Biden into the White House, and they realized, really after a year, he can't play. He cannot do the job. The man looks weak on the world stage. Today at his own presser, he gets done with his statement, looks to the side and mouths, "Am I taking questions?" Like, who does this? You're the leader of the free world, and you can't stand in front of reporters and take questions, and then you stumble off and you shuffle away. There is no sense of leadership coming from him. Nobody even barely hears from him. It'd be one thing if you talked all the time, and then they built a series of gaffes because you talk a lot. He barely talks. And the gaffe machine is as long as all of his public statements because the man's barely out there. And then you get to the actual policies, the actual decisions.
Yeah.
Listen, Donald Trump is the master of names, naming somebody something, and I'm not taking that from him. But Joe Biden is the master of disaster.
Yeah.
And listen, not Apollo Creed. Sorry, Rocky. I know we in Philly, but it's not Apollo Creed anymore. It's Joe Biden, the master of disaster. Everything this man has touched has gone to crap. It has all gone wrong.
It's the opposite of the golden touch.
He sucks.
The opposite
and
of
we all
Midas
know
touch.
He sucks. Yeah. Listen, man. You know what's bad when the fans of your own team, when they see him coming down the tunnel, are like,
I hope he makes it. 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 No, that's not leadership.
I hope he gets away from the camera soon. So
not leadership.
We dodged a bullet. You can't have somebody in the Oval Office being the leader of the free world when this is the track record. And I think that is why, number one, above anything else, why you're seeing voters, minority voters, are leaving him or do not have the enthusiasm for him because they know what we know. They know he sucks. They just won't say it out loud, but they already know.
Hot garbage, yeah. And on the world scale, the world is watching. I've mentioned being on the verge of World War III on multiple occasions now. The disastrous withdrawal that we saw in Afghanistan was where this whole thing began. This feckless leadership. This is where Vladimir Putin realized that, this is now the time for us to take Ukraine. Would have never happened under President Trump. Would have never happened. What happened in Israel in October would have never happened under President Trump. Right now, China is looking like they're getting ready to start to move on a few countries as well. Would never happen under President Trump because they're looking at a man that can barely read a teleprompter. He cannot walk. He cannot find his way on and off the stage. It's actually elder abuse at this point. And this is not even about Trump at this point. This is about, do we have a guy that can even make it for the next few months? And guess who number 2 is? Kamala Harris. So guess what? Wait, there's more. It actually gets worse than that. And so they are really stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. If you're looking at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, this dynamic duo that, quite frankly, one might not make it until then. And then if he does it, you have the backfill of Kamala Harris. This is a complete disaster. Borders are.
You can't call them a dynamic duo. No. Batman and Robin rolling over in their grave.
Sarcasm.
Yeah. Well, you hear all the things that we pointed out, and I think that the American public sees. You either are denying it, you're in denial, or you're just not looking.
Well, and I know that when he was, it could be a number that he's talking about, but as I think it was Byron Donald who said that, he finishes a speech, and he goes like to the side and whispers where everybody can hear him, am I supposed to take questions?
Yeah, right.
And you see that, and something, we've seen it so much that it's almost become normal.
Yeah.
Where you just say, well, that's just Biden. It's normal. But think about that to people that are just starting to pay attention right now.
Right.
Because so many don't. And they see that. Or, the reaction on the world stage to him out there reading a teleprompter, messing up the words, and then looking and, am I supposed to take questions? I'm not supposed to take questions.
Having to be basically taken by his hand when he's taken away.
Or they told me not to say it, or they told me not to take questions, or I've been told it's only to. Who the hell? What president's ever done that? Ever?
Well, this is indicative and very clear to us all that are paying attention and have been since the beginning that he is somebody who has to have a handler, a set of handlers. This isn't somebody who can do this on his own. And that's tragic. That is tragic. And look, I'm with them on the question being, look, forget about 4 more years. Can he make it 4 more months?
Yeah.
I mean, again, over the weekend, the gaffe, everybody had the gaffe wrong. They said that he said Iraq and he meant Ukraine. No, he meant money for Iran, not Ukraine. And those are the things that we look at, I'm not wrong, and repeatedly, and have since the beginning. And we've also watched the decline since the beginning. The decline as of late, though, I would say since the beginning of 24, has been so obvious to any of us who are paying attention.
It's really noticeable when you go back to 2020 or 2021.
Yeah.
When at that point we still thought he was old, and then you see him today and you're like, wow, has he declined over the last 3 years.
Right.
And the fact you saw that the members of his cabinet, we can't keep up with them. So this entire thing that the Wall Street Journal, that behind closed doors, No, it's in front of us every single day. Nothing's
Yeah.
behind closed doors.
Right.
We see it, and they're all just pretending it isn't happening,
Yeah.
which is why you get, as I think Wesley Hunt said, you get to elderly abuse.
Yeah.
You're letting a guy out there who doesn't have the capability of performing in any way. And so, yeah, it's bad right now.
Well,
It's
and
bad
we
for
also
them
said
right now.
what they were saying. We've said this for a while now. Joe Biden never had to govern until now. He didn't as vice president. He didn't as senator.
Right.
He never had to govern. He could just throw a few words out there, and it was basically just a suggestion, or in his time in the Senate, a vote on the Senate floor. But it wasn't governing. And January 20th of 21 changed all that. He had to govern, and he's not capable, and this is outside of any cognitive issues. He's just not one of these people that's capable of governing.
Yeah, he's not a leader.
No, at all. And you have to become that person if you're not already. So he wasn't able to adapt into the job, and much of that, I believe, is his cognitive issues, whatever they may be. But it's also the fact that he's never really been one that's standing by the truth or doing things that are based on conviction. It's always been, he just wanted to be the guy who could get away with a few words. And the set of lies that he has been telling for years that the liberal media acknowledged in 2021 over and over again, and he still repeats those lies. You combine all those factors and you have Joe Biden, who is absolutely not qualified to be president. And there's no way around that. And they have now, we've got months before November 5th. And they've got to get through a convention. They've got to get through moments of him standing, as they mentioned here, on the world stage. He's not capable of looking good on any world stage. He just isn't anymore.
No, he looks horribly, horribly weak. And his presentation is way down from what it used to be.
It's just horrific.
It's embarrassing to watch. You're almost like you're watching your own father, and you're embarrassed to see him.
They mentioned something we've talked about for a while, that, what did you see? Well, Putin went after Crimea during the Obama years, and he goes after Ukraine during the Biden years. There's a reason. They see the weakness. Our enemies see our weakness, and they'll take a shot at any chance that they get because they believe they'll get away with it. And that's what's going on, because they look at us allowing Iran to fund their proxies over and over again.
Wow.
And they see that and say, well, my gosh, if they'll do that, they're not coming after me.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howes Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
80 years of Smokey Bear, the wildfire prevention icon's public service campaign, one created in a partnership between the Ad Council, U.S. Forest Service, and National Association of State Foresters, is the longest continuous running public service campaign in our country. Yet USDA Forest Service historian Lincoln Bramwell says that message has included adjustments over time. Perhaps the most significant change occurred in 2001.
The formal message changed from only you can prevent forest fires to only you can prevent wildfires. And that was really done in recognition of how wildfires and fire events take place in sort of all kind of ecological conditions, not just tall standing forest. That was excluding all the other fuel types like grass fires and prairie fires.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Here's Bill Maher on Biden's border executive order from last week.
If Biden loses this election, it's going to be because of two things. He's old and immigration. I mean, just on a political level, I don't think they could have handled it worse. It looks like a last minute, it looks like he did nothing. But now it looks like this is his last minute before the election. Hail Mary pass, and it's not going to succeed.
Well,
Yeah, he's convincing no one.
now remember, that was last Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know over the weekend we've got a lot of updates. Bill Maloogian from Fox News has been covering it and says there's no difference in the border at all. So not only did he do nothing about it, but even as you and I pointed out earlier, because we played him, Mayorkas was on making the rounds of the Sunday morning news show, not stating that the goal is to stop illegal immigration, but it's to legalize as many people coming into the country, but not coming through the border. They're trying to streamline it where you can go to another city and you can fly in, or you've got the app and you can get in through the app. And that's what they're promoting. And Mayorkas was actually promoting that as a solution to the problem.
Right. You know, and that doesn't get, you know, this is the problem now that they have, is that they can't get away from their agenda. They can't run from their agenda. And the reality of their agenda is hitting them hard. But where do you go? What is it that Biden is promising over the next 4 years? It's more of this. He doesn't have to say anything. 4 more years means 4 more years of this. I don't know how in the world you could want that.
Not only is it 4 more years of this, but it's 4 more years of this from a person who is completely detached from reality and from what's going on the ground.
No, that's it.
And really doesn't care.
Yeah, he has absolutely no concern whatsoever. You know, his arrogance and his defiance will always be part of who he is. And you're seeing that arrogance and defiance play out every single day. He doesn't care. If he did care, things would change. He absolutely doesn't care, to the point of, you know, he has all of his surrogates lying about the economy. We don't understand why people don't see the great economy. You know, you've got to get your surrogates in line with promoting something that is absolutely false and delusional. And that's exactly where they are. You know, this is where, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's Iran, you know, it's the southern border, it's inflation. Just deny the reality all day long at every turn and promote something that's not true. And that's what they've been doing.
I'm fascinated by where the campaigns go from this point. What do the Democrats do besides attacking Trump on January 6th? I can see the footage coming up. We always expected that to happen, but I think people have already processed that. It's not that there's so much time has gone by where people don't know what happened back then. They certainly do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I believe the president, or the former President Trump, that is, could use that to his advantage.
No, that's, you know, again, reality is doing so much work for you. But the reality also of his presidency, his first term, Trump's presidency, is hitting a lot of people. You know, there's that thing that people love to reminisce about, the good old days. Well, the good old days aren't that long ago when it comes to the economy, right? We're talking about pretty much up until about COVID hit. So through the spring of 2020, people are going, yeah, I remember. It was just 4 years ago. Wow, that's not that long ago.
Nope.
We'd love for things to return to that.
Setting the standard for America. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
And I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Good morning. Welcome. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. You can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. I just love this headline. AOC frets Donald Trump would throw her in jail. If he wins, he's out of his mind.
Okay.
So is that going to be all the candidates saying, if you elect me, understand Donald Trump's going to throw me in jail, so elect me?
Yeah.
It is amazing that the party that has used lawfare in an attempt to lock up Trump is claiming Trump would do the same thing to them.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Well, it's almost like they don't understand that they're actually admitting that's what they're doing to Trump. It's like he's going to get revenge by doing what? By using the justice system to go after his political opponents. Oh. Well, no one would do that.
Well, no, it's hilarious. It's hilarious because we all sit back and go, well, you're screaming about what your own party's doing.
Exactly.
Do you have no self-awareness at all?
Apparently not.
All right, here's Mayorkas yesterday on ABC, and even Martha Raddatz has to hit him on a couple of things. But the most interesting thing, which you'll find out here, what he is saying, is on illegal immigration or on the border. He just doesn't want people at the border, but they've opened up so many other pathways for you to come through without going to the border. That's what he wants you to go through.
Yeah.
You think I'm making that up, right? No, here we go.
And incentivize them to use the lawful pathways that we have made available to them and keep them out of the hands of exploitative smugglers. It's early. The signs are positive. Our personnel have done an extraordinary job in implementing a very big shift in how we operate on the southern border.
President Biden said this ban will remain in place until the number of people trying to enter illegally is reduced to a level that our system can effectively manage, meaning, as we said, that average of 1,500 encounters or less over a period of 14 days. We said that has never happened. Do you really expect that to happen in the coming months or before Election Day?
Martha, it is 1,500, an average of 1,500 individuals encountered over a 7-day consecutive period. We are driving to that, and that's not all we're doing. We are also communicating throughout the region about the lawful pathways. We are driving people to use...
But that's something you've been doing all along. You've been trying to do that with people. I want to go back to an interview I did with you in March of 2021, 2 months into your tenure as DHS Secretary. You seemed totally confident then that you had that under control. Let's listen to what you told me.
We have seen large numbers of migration in the past. We know how to address it. We have a plan. We are executing on our plan, and we will succeed. This is what we do. But one thing is also clear, that it takes time. It's tough, but we can do it. This is what we do, and we will accomplish our mission.
We will succeed. That was 3 years ago. Since then, 6.5 million migrants have been apprehended along the southern border. It would be very hard to call that a success.
Ouch.
But Martha, you're not listening to what he said.
Yeah.
He didn't say, he's twice. When he explained what he was doing, none of it had to do with keeping people from crossing the border.
No, success means getting more people across the border for him.
It was the Biden valet service that he's talking about.
Right.
There are other ways to get them in besides being at the southern border where they can be exploited by the cartel. We wish to just bring them in. We have a valet express option.
Yes.
For anybody who wishes. Am I wrong here?
No.
Am I making this up? I'm not making this up. We have a valet express means for you to get into the country and claim your asylum and come back for a court date later on. We'll fly you in.
Right.
Go to the app. We'll walk you in.
Right. We've got every means to bring you across the border, and we're going to continue doing that. That's a successful story to them. Is we don't have to monitor the border. We'll go there and pick you up.
Yeah. We'll give you a boarding pass.
Right.
It's really incredible because He was being honest, right? That was a point where he was telling the truth.
Yep.
Here's what we're doing.
Here's what we're doing, and he was bragging about it to friendly media. This is what they love to talk about, not when they're talking to members of Congress, by the way, but Martha Raddatz. Oh, yeah. Look at what we're doing. He's pounding his chest over this whole thing. And he's getting, he believes, applauded by the left for this. Mm-hmm. But the majority of Americans want mass deportation. That's what the numbers show.
Former President Donald Trump promised that if elected president in November, his administration will eliminate income taxes on tips. During a rally in Las Vegas on Sunday, Trump said that told the crowd his administration would not be taxing the tips of people working in hotels, restaurants, or other jobs. So this is the first time I've said this, and to those hotel workers and perhaps people that get tips, you're going to be very happy, because when I get done, when I get to office, we are going to not charge taxes on tips.
Tips are an income, and everything above $20 a month has to be reported. So unless you rewrite, and Congress would need to do that, tax law, you can't change that. And I don't see Congress doing that because it's a source of income. Those tips have to be reported. Workers have to report them to their employer because their employer has to pay the FICA tax. So the employer has to know how much to pay in FICA tax.
And then you've got the 14th Amendment issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not going to say, well, this type of income is not taxable.
And if you're taxing everybody else on their income and you don't tax somebody else on their income,
right?
Because is it your income just on tips?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then bonuses included in that,
right? Yeah, I mean there's no way to do it unless you rewrite tax law, and you need Congress to do that, and you're not going to have the political will of Congress to rewrite tax law on that and say for these workers, this won't be taxed.
Employees can receive cash tips left through a credit or debit card, or tip amounts received from employees paid out through top pools as tip splitting.
Right, yeah. It all goes into one bucket, basically, and then at the end of the shift, it's split.
The IRS notes that all cash and non-cash tips as an employer receives are income and are subject to federal income taxes.
Right.
That's going to be a tough thing to change, because you would have to change the income tax for everybody, because you just can't say one demographic doesn't have to pay.
Right. This type of income isn't going to be taxed. Well, then you're going to have others saying, well, wait a minute. And the service industry, obviously very big in Las Vegas. The service industry unions out there are huge. But you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that changed. You're just not. I think, you can look at it and say, okay, certain levels of income, but it's not going to be based on whether it's tips or not. It's going to be based on, okay, can we work with Republicans to change tax law to lower people's taxes overall? Okay, but you can't single it down to one type of income. And right now it stands that you have to report anything $20 or more per month, and tips is supposed to be reported. And again, reporting it, if it's a business that doesn't do the pool taxes where it all goes into one bucket, where you get to take home your own tips, you still have to report that to the employer. The employer has to pay the FICA tax. And you may say, well, it's not always done. I'm just telling you what tax law states. And changing that law is going to require Congress. It literally would require an act of Congress.
Right. Congress could probably do it like they did capital gains, even though you get income from capital gains.
Right.
You don't pay for it until you take it, but it's at a different level than regular income taxes.
You could change that level and say, okay, the taxes on the tip is lower. You're still going to have a hard time getting that done. Not everybody who works in a job that makes tips makes a lower income, but it is hard work. And if you average it out over the hourly stuff, then people aren't getting rich. So it is quite often servers have to work multiple jobs even.
Waiters and bartenders earn more in tips than they do from what employers pay them as an hourly base wage.
Yeah.
The median share of total earnings that come from tips account to 58.5% of wait staff's earnings and 54% of bartenders' earnings.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And so they're not getting rich doing this. That it is a low hourly rate, but you rely on those tips. And we all know how that works. What's interesting, too, is I saw an article over the weekend when you walk up to a counter and they're asking you to tip in places that normally don't have a tip, and they're just putting it on the machine. And they did a survey, and they said the workers that work those counters are also pretty nervous about that because they know the backlash. They're getting the backlash from people saying, hey, why should I tip? I'm coming to the counter. I'm basically the server. And so that kind of is taking on a new feel for people in that industry because, you don't want to pay a tip. It's like it's everywhere now. I'm waiting for it to arrive at gas pumps. It's self-serve. You want to leave a tip? The pump did all the work. You didn't actually do anything. I'm waiting for that to hit.
it may happen.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric, what I would do on the tip thing if I was Trump, again, don't believe he can get it through in an executive order, but if that's his goal, to try to stop taxes on tips, you think about it, if marketed correctly, it could be quite effective. And you simply say, the people that are rich are the ones that buy the EVs. You're subsidizing them. People that get free, that are getting free college education, that are getting their loans forgiven. Well, they're not getting their loans forgiven. Somebody's paying for that.
Yeah.
All these people that are doing well are getting massive tax breaks. It's time that you got a tax break. You, the hard worker who works for tips.
Yeah,
it could be quite effective.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it would be quite welcome, too, because it also could affect a lot of the people that are in the side gig industry. So you think of your Uber drivers or Uber Eats or DoorDashers and things like that, because there is right now a conundrum with that industry. People are using those services, but you still have people that are as drivers that look at it and say, I can't make ends meet, and I'm not sure if it's worth it. So we've had in question, you and I, that business model, from the beginning, really, how long-term can you make it successful? Because you need to attract as many drivers and workers as you can to the industry, at least to the point that any given market, any given town has enough to fulfill orders. That's what it comes down to. And something like that could be a different, approach where, okay, can we go in and make it for gig workers? Can we make it for those who get tips and rely on those tips for a huge chunk, if not the majority, of their income?
And that's where you separate yourself. You're saying, look, it's time that we balance a budget, and it's time that we didn't put the tax burden on the back of the middle class and the poor that you and I have always talked about.
Yeah. And that's it. And you mentioned, about the elites and how they get these tax breaks. And the Inflation Reduction Act was right there, part of that game for the left. And they were telling you, well, if you'll just go spend $200,000 on these upgrades to your home,
no, you're right,
then you'll save money. Look, we'll give you a tax break if you'll do that. Well, the average person wasn't listening to that because it's out of their reach. And all of the mandates and tax breaks that have been thrown out to the elites from this administration, you can turn that around big time, and you'll get the public sentiment behind you.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.